Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this event. It's a special event. We threw it together pretty quick. I got a call from Irek, and he said, can you get some people here? And I said, some friends here. And I said, of course we can, Irek. And so that's what we did. And you know, what usually happens is when I write a list and I recognize people, I miss people. But I wrote a list anyways. So if I missed you, I apologize ahead of time. But I really want to recognize our representatives, our activists, the backbone of our organization in the union, all the elected and appointed reps that are here today that you see. From every organization that we have. And of course, we wouldn't be where we are today without our retirees. And our retirees mean a lot to us, and you will never be forgotten. You will never be forgotten. We have from the ATU, Dragon in your group. We thought we were going to use that first legislation they put through, but you got the deal done across the line. So for the ATU, Dragon in your group, welcome to 444 and Local 200. We have the building trades here. I saw my good buddy Chris Sutton, and we know the building trades are always here with us. Chris, the rest of the building trades, thank you. I know I talked to him yesterday. Emil Nabout, the president of Local 195, and his leadership, they're here. Welcome to everybody. And just before we came here, John Dagnolo, who we share in here, John and I had a little briefing with the Prime Minister before. John Darby, your leadership, thank you for being here with us as well today. Our community partners. We couldn't do it without community partners and us are tied to the hip. Bill Maher, the CEO of Hotel Dieu Healthcare, with Dr. Andrea Steen, Janice Dawson, and Sherry LaFramboise. Thank you for attending with us today. United Way. We have United Way here. Kelly, Lori, Andrew. Where are you? There you are. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. The Unemployed Help Center, June Muir and her team. I don't know where. There they are. They're always here. Thank you, June. Our retired local and national president, Ken Luenza, who's hopping around here somewhere. Now, a lot of you probably have your money in banks, but I'm going to promote the Motor City Community Credit Union that has Unifor members there. I don't know if Rob's here, but Sonia's here, and I want to welcome them here to our local as well. The Deputy Mayor of LaSalle is Mike. No, wrong town, not my town, Jesus. Mike Acapata. Mike, and we work close with Mike with the University of Windsor, and I don't think he's here yet. He was going to bring his daughter, but Mike, no, you're not here, so I just took attendance. We're going to give him shit on that one. Anyways, but I did see from the City of Windsor, Councillor Ronaldo Agostino. Where's his beautiful scarf? Where is he? Ronaldo, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think I've got them all. But I just want to mention a couple things. Her what? Oh, I didn't see her. She didn't come up and say hello to me. Mayor Bondi. Welcome, Mayor Bondi. I voted for her, by the way. Jesus. Okay. Couple things I just want to bring up. Couple things that this government's been very responsible for. And this is where this partnership goes. And we did the EV transition. This EV transition, there's people out there and there's doubters out there and everything else. But I can tell you, without the federal Liberals being part of this team and Team Canada that we needed, we wouldn't have that investment that went in Windsor. We wouldn't have that battery plant that went in there. We would not have the investment that went in Oakville for the Detroit 3. And we're going to make sure that in the Windsor and Essex area, that this is the gateway to manufacturing. We're no longer not thought of. This is the first for the seniors. The first increase in OAS in 30 years. The first increase that they put in. That's what partnerships are all about. And you know what else we have? we have a union advisory table. So the first time that we have unions that are at the table going to make decisions as the government make decisions moving forward. That's the things that we have been working collectively with this government. So with no further ado, I'm going to invite Irek Kusmierczyk to say a few words. Irek and I have built a very good relationship. He still has one thing to get done for me. When he took office, he showed me his mandate letter. Everything on his mandate letter he's done, but he has not done EI yet. EI yet. We're going to get that thing done come hell or high water. So no further ado, MP for Tecumseh, Irek Kusmierczyk. Irek.
Thanks, Dave. Stick around. Wow, man, this is awesome. This is absolutely incredible. Look around, guys. This is power. This is power. This is solidarity. Everyone coming together, community coming together. And Dave and John, I wanted to say thank you so much for hosting us here today. Thank you so much for being such incredible partners, incredible leaders. Let's give them a huge round of applause. My friends, the walls of this union hall are strong. They're strong. And the reason they're strong is because we have strong leadership in this community. But more than that, that strength is driven by members, by workers here today. It's workers looking after workers. It's neighbors looking after neighbors. That's the Windsor way. Let's give you guys a huge round of applause, everything that you guys do. And folks, we had to be strong. We had no other choice. When you look at the road that we've been on the last 10 years, we had to be strong. I mean, we remember 10 years ago in this community, we remember 11.2% unemployment under the Conservative government. We remember 300,000 manufacturing jobs gone under that Conservative government. We remember jobs gone. We remember GM gone. We remember families gone to Alberta to try to find work. And now you look at where we are today. We got more workers working than ever before. We got more workers working. We got 1,000 people moving into this community every single month because they see a future here. We got young people staying here in our community, getting good jobs, building families, building a future. That happens only when you've got partnership and you got folks in this room coming together, working together. That's solidarity. That's strength. And then you look at our unions, and you look at labor, and you look how strong they are. You think about, you want to talk about strength? Talk to a salt mine worker, 192 days out on strike, fighting for good wages, for better working conditions. Let's give them a huge round of applause, because they were out there for all of us, 192 days. Let's give a huge round of applause to our brothers and sisters at ATU for standing up for 10 paid work days here in the city. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Jameson, Green Shield, all of these folks are out there fighting not just for them, not just for workers, but for our entire community. And let's give a huge round of applause as well for the bargaining team at Unifor for fighting and winning the best agreement, the best wages and conditions in generations for our community here. Let's give them a huge round of applause. That's solidarity. That's power. And folks, on top of all of that, we've got a battery plant right now that's 50% built on the corner of East Zero and Banwell. We got 1,000 workers right now building that plant, representing all the trades. All the trades. They're Canadian, they're local. And when that plant is operational in 2024, we're going to have 2,500 workers, local, Canadian, and unionized, working at that battery plant, lifting our community. And that doesn't happen without you guys. And it doesn't happen without a partnership between government, between labor. This is the first time in 50 years that workers, labor, and the federal government are perfectly in sync with each other, working together, pushing in the same direction, and that's the way you get things done. And I got to tell you, folks, it is awesome that we're able to bring here the Prime Minister of Canada to this Union Hall. It is symbolic. And I got to tell you, folks, that he's the reason why we got the battery plant here. And when things got tough last year, when the battery plant was hanging in the balance, it was the Prime Minister who stepped up and said, we will deliver a battery plant for Windsor, and a battery plant will be built here in Windsor. He's the guy that stepped forward. He's the guy that fought for us every single day. And so without any further ado, let's put our hands together. Let's welcome the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.
Thank you. Hello, 444. Hello, 200. Hello, Unifor. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Irek, not just for your words, but for your tireless work, your advocacy, your fight, not just for workers here in Windsor, but your fight for workers right across the country. It's great to have you on the team. It's very annoying to have him on the team when he calls me all the time to tell me about this next thing that we have to do, but then we get it done together, and that is always what I want from a great MP. And strong voice for Windsor. Thank you for everything you do. Dave, John, thank you guys for welcoming us here. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all today. Opportunity to talk about the challenges we're facing and, quite frankly, how we need to continue to work together to solve these challenges. But before I get too far into thank yous, I want to pause and thank you all in this room and all workers like you right across the country, because you are the single greatest competitive advantage and resource that Canada has. We've always been a country with amazing opportunities and advantages, but our single greatest advantage has always been Canadians, and you are the embodiment of that. And let's be honest, it's a very complicated world right now with a whole bunch of different pressures, just, not even talking about individuals yet, talking about, as a government, trying to draw in global investment from around the world. I've become a really aggressive pitchman for Canada to try and get people to come and see that they want to be part of what we're doing here. It's working, because last year we were the third country in the world in terms of foreign investment, behind the US and Brazil. We are doing something here in Canada that everyone is interested in. I've gotten the pitch down to a fairly good patter right now, an elevator pitch. Obviously, we have incredible natural resources, and at a time of disrupted supply chains, we need to be able to show that reliable provider of minerals, of energy resources, of the things people need to build the present and the future we have. And that involves, what we've done over the past 8 years, involves working hand in hand with Indigenous peoples to make sure that their millennia-long stewardship of the land continues, and that they are partners in building those natural resources as an opportunity for the world. And that partnership is key, and that's a part of our competitive advantage. On top of that, as the world moves towards net zero, our capacity to deliver innovative energy solutions, our capacity to, yes, continue to have oil and gas that we're working to decarbonize, but also renewables that we're building across the country and and delivering around the world, and an environmental responsibility that's delivering clean energy and clean energy for the future to businesses that are willing to step up, to factories and manufacturing that want to build in Canada, that need to have environmental responsibility to sell to their customers, sell to their clients, to be able to say it's green energy that's contributing to making this car or this widget or what have you. That's a huge advantage that Canada has, that we already have an 80% plus clean grid across the country, and we're on our way to 100% clean. That's a massive competitive advantage when we're pitching for countries around the world that want more responsibility, more vision and responsibility in their supply chains. We have another huge advantage in our trading deals, in our trade relationships. Canada now has privileged access to 2/3 of the global economy. We're the only of the large industrialized nations, the G7, we are the only one of the G7 that has a free trade deal with every other G7 country. And the reason we were able to negotiate that and do that, we did that over the past few years, was because even at a time of protectionism, of worries about globalization and trade, we put comprehensive trade at the center of our conversations. We made sure that labor standards, environmental standards, opportunity for women, protection of Indigenous peoples were part of our trade deals, because we know that trade leads to growth, but there's nothing automatic about that growth that means that it's shared fairly amongst workers, amongst citizens. That's why a whole bunch of people have been pulling their support back from trade positive and growth positive visions and plans, because they've seen that it hasn't been fairly shared with everyone. If we want to continue to have a pro-growth agenda, continue to have people invest in Canada, then we need to show that that trade and that engagement with the world can benefit everyone. Because over the past few years, particularly since the 2008 recession, where the banks got bailouts and the economy bounced back, but wages didn't, people have been worried and conscious that it's not automatic that growth is going to benefit everyone. The rising tide no longer lifts all boats. So being able to negotiate trade deals at a time where people are pulling away from trade is a huge amount of competitive advantage as people look at the challenges in the United States politically, as they look at disrupted supply chains around the world, or the unreliability of certain partners around the world that are using trade for political advantages. Canada looks increasingly attractive, and the fact that we then have access to the European Union, to all of North America, to so much of the global economy, to TPP through Asia, that makes Canada a great place to invest. And another competitive advantage we have is our stability as a democracy. Strong institutions, the rule of law, strong communities, vibrant communities where people pull together. These are things that we can take for granted in Canada, but the world is showing us we cannot take those for granted. That the challenges we're facing around the world happen as people are pitted against each other, as people lose faith in their institutions, whether it be Supreme Court or unions or government institutions. And here in Canada, there is still a belief that we can do this together and we can lean on each other and our systems work for each other. We need to keep fighting for it. It didn't happen by accident, won't continue without effort. But all those advantages are part of what our pitch is on drawing investment in Canada. But all those advantages together aren't as important as the single greatest advantage Canada has. That's Canadians themselves. Our workers are best educated in the OECD, ambitious, forward-thinking, well supported with a strong social safety net that gives people the reassurance that they're going to be able to care for their family if the worst happens. We are a country where the folks who want to invest look at the workforce, look at the growth of the workforce, our openness to immigration done properly. This is something that when companies come, whether it's a Stellantis or a Volkswagen or a Dow Chemicals or a Northvolt or any of these big investments that we've talked about over the past years, they say, okay, if I'm going to invest in a place, not making an investment for 5 years or 10 years. I'm making an investment for a generation. I'm making an investment for 50 years, and I want to know that I can rely on future generations of workers to come in. And that's been a huge focus for this government, making sure that at this time of uncertainty, where everyone's worried about what the future is going to hold for them, The Canadians remain ambitious about their future and confident in our ability to meet these challenges and overcome everything we're facing in these challenging times in the world. And that actually goes to the core of the promise I made to Canadians when I first got elected in 2015. That we were going to spend every day fighting for the middle class and people working hard to join it. Because we saw what was happening around the world, where the middle class was getting hollowed out. People were aware that perhaps for the first time we were entering an era where the next generation couldn't automatically be expected to succeed greater than the previous generation. And that goes to the very core of the idea of progress. The idea and the promise of Canada that we can keep getting better, that we can keep creating more opportunities, that the hard work people do all their lives creates a better country for the next generation. And that promise is under attack, not just in Canada, but all around the world. And there are different reactions to that promise. And actually what we saw in Canada and the United States in 2015 and 2016 were two very opposite reactions to the same problem. We got elected on a commitment to support the middle class and people working hard to join it. So we moved forward on things like the Canada Child Benefit. We moved forward on raising taxes on the wealthiest 1% so we could lower them for the middle class. We moved forward on running deficits so that we could invest in infrastructure that had been long uninvested in as a country. We made those choices to put Canadians at the heart of everything we did as we were fighting against climate change and spurring the innovation was necessary, as we were fixing the broken relationship with Indigenous peoples that has still got a lot of work to do. We made a choice to do the right kinds of things to build the future based on hope, ambition, optimism for this country and our ability to roll up our sleeves and deliver. In the United States, the very next year, they made a different choice. To give in to the fear, the anger, the divisiveness that is so tempting in politics, because it's easy to instrumentalize. It's easy to get people mad. It's easy to get them to shake their fists. It's harder, so much harder, to provide thoughtful, real, responsible solutions when you can just put out a TikTok video or a bumper sticker and say, oh, no, this is what we're going to do, it's easy. But that hard work of building solutions, well, those take partnerships. Those take a serious approach. And one of the things we knew as we were committing to grow the middle class and support people working hard to join it, we couldn't do it alone. We couldn't do it without fully partnering with labor. The organized labor across this country that had been dismissed by the previous Conservative government. So the first thing we did was reverse Bills 525 and 377, the anti-union legislation that the Conservatives brought in. Right on. Then we, yeah, no, that was... And we kept working with you, understanding that the partnership that we built with you was good not just for manufacturing and for union jobs, but for all jobs across the country. When we brought in 10 days of paid sick leave, it made an impact. Yes, it was directly on federal areas of jurisdiction, but I know, was it UTA that used it against the unions, against the city of Windsor here, and helped leverage that forward. That's setting the new rules of the game. We move forward with a UTIP program, Union Training and Innovation Program. We started with $25 million in 2016, but it became so incredibly successful. We're up over $80 million of investment as unions are now investing in new training facilities, innovating, making sure the next generation of workers can meet the technological and advanced challenges of the job sites of today and tomorrow. That was an investment directly in the strength of our unions to take on any challenges in the future. We move forward on removing permanently interest charges from apprenticeship loans and Canada student loans. So people can never hesitate to get that learning, that training they need that's going to carry them through a good career that supports their family and their community. And we're continuing to do even more things like the labor mobility deduction tax credit that recognizes that job sites are sometimes not across the street from your home or your local, but on the other side of the country, and making sure that you are recognized for the expenses you're taking as you're building and contributing to Canada was a key thing. And on the UTIP program, one of the recent examples, and our Labour Minister was, no, not the Labour Minister, the Jobs Minister, Randy Boissonneau, was just here a few months ago to announce $7 million to the UTIP funding here in Windsor, but it'll have impacts across the country, specifically for women in the trades, women in unions, and other underrepresented groups. This is about making sure that everyone can benefit from the work and the impacts of good union jobs and training. But one of the things that I also learned as I got working with union leaders across the country is your fight isn't just for union members. You also understand how important it is to build strong communities, strong opportunities for every worker across this country. That's why one of the very first things we did that was heavily pushed on by union leadership was update and modernize the Canada Pension Plan. And that's a great example of people saying, okay, we're worried that today's 30-year-olds across the economy are not going to have the kind of retirement security that people should have. And that's not even specifically for union folks, because often unionized workers have better pensions than the average Canadians. But this was about making sure that it was there for everyone. There was a strong retirement protection for everyone, that we needed to start on this right now. So because of what we did within the first year of government, 30-year-olds today can know that there will be a much more generous Canada Pension Plan when they retire many, many decades from now. That is a huge thing that you led on. And again, union jobs often come with slightly better benefits and opportunities than the average, but you still are there on the front lines of the fight for pharmacare, which we just brought in a way that's going to transform this country to make sure that people don't have to choose between life-saving medication and life-changing medication and paying their grocery bills. We're moving forward with a dental program for people who don't have dental coverage, particularly seniors, to make sure that everyone can get the dental care and therefore the health they need. These are things that you are leading on as much as anybody else, and we are doing together, union and non-union, in ways that matter for this country. And that ability to fight, to stand up for each other, has quite frankly been absolutely essential and inspiring for me on a personal level. I mean, we've been through some challenging years over the past number of years. The threat of seeing NAFTA ripped up was an existential threat to the Canadian economy. 80% of our trade goes to the United States. And when the American administration decided that they were going to scrap NAFTA, we had to fight for it. And it was all of you, not just across the country, connecting with your union brothers and sisters on the other side of the border, but you're standing up for Canadian jobs, you're standing up together for the Canadian economy. And the leadership folded in our Team Canada approach on pushing back on the United States that got us through that secured the jobs and the opportunity and actually led us to a better negotiated NAFTA, or CUSMA, that is protecting so many of the high-quality auto jobs, for example, of the future from being exported to Mexico. They're going to stay right here in Windsor, right here in Canada, because of the work that you did on securing NAFTA. And let's remember that American governments are American governments. Yes, there are some that are more challenging than others, but even a government that is friendly to Canada and friendly to unions made a bit of a mistake when they first put forward the IRA and completely excluded Canada from their vision of an EV future. They were ready to move forward with massive supports for anyone buying an electric car in the United States that was made in the United States. Well, that would have been the end of the auto industry in Canada, because we know EVs are the future. So we rolled up our sleeves, we got talking with our American friends, and we made the point that we've been making cars together for 50 years in this country, in our two countries, to the benefit of both of our countries to an extraordinary way. And we got them to change those parameters to make sure that EVs built in Canada will be part of the solution as they move forward on a more electric vehicle future. That was something we fought for, something you fought for, something we did together to secure these jobs for the future. And then when they did move forward with their IRA, massive subsidies to various industries, we had to meet that. And let's be very clear, one of the reasons they moved forward with the IRA is because they had lost 4 years in innovation and leadership on fighting climate change because of the previous administration. So they were busy trying to catch up to the head start that Canada had. But of course, we had to match that, and that's exactly what we did. But as we're building ITCs on innovation, as we're drawing in great investments, as we're creating the conditions for the investments that are necessary for the future, as the government is putting on the table tax credits worth billions of dollars over the coming years, we locked in labor standards so people could fully benefit from those tax credits. As we build the industries and the technologies of the future, guaranteed protections for labor were built into those tax credits for the first time in the history of tax credits in this country. We're making sure that good jobs for Canadians are part of the growth and the industry we're creating. We did that together because labor leadership was key in letting us know that this was something that we could do and we should demand, and we have. And that's going to change the shape of this country and our workers as well. These are all the kinds of things we do because we understand how important it is to have you by our sides in these fights, but also you there to lead in these fights. Because it comes down to a very core principle. Everyone benefits when you have a strong position to bargain on at the bargaining table. The previous Conservative government that was always ready to rush to back-to-work legislation undercut your ability to actually stand strong at the bargaining table. And let's be very clear as well, that at the bargaining table, yes, you're standing up for your members, but you're also setting the standards and the levels that others around the country can look to, that people in non-union jobs should be able to expect. These are the kinds of things that are so important, and it's good for you, it's good for all workers, but it's also good when you want to build an economy that works for all Canadians. Making sure that companies, that investors, that manufacturers, and that the enterprises you are dealing with are actually committed to the success not just of their own bottom line, but of the communities in which they're embedded, the towns and cities that they draw from in their workforce. Understanding that there is a larger bottom line comes when people are standing up for themselves at the bargaining table. And that's why, after decades of conversations about it, this government has finally moved forward on back-to-work legislation. This is about making sure that you can get the best deals at the bargaining table. This is about making sure that you are able to fight for your members, for your fellow workers as strongly as can and get to that right deal. That is what this is about. This is how we build a stronger future, and that's exactly why we're doing it. Now, it's in committee now. We're watching very, very carefully what the Conservatives are doing, because we know that a leopard can't change its spots. Pierre Poilievre was part of the government that brought in 525 and 377. They were the government that constantly brought in back-to-work legislation. They were the ones that constantly dismissed and disrespected organized labor for 8 years under Stephen Harper. Let us not now pretend that the Conservatives are going to be a friend to Labour. And a perfect example of that is their disinterest in the massive investments we're bringing in with Stellantis and Nexstar. They have nothing to say about this. They don't believe in corporate welfare, they call it. Well, I call it investing in our future. Confident countries invest in themselves, in their workers, in their capacity to meet the challenges of the future. And everything we've seen over the past number of years, the investments that have come in across the country, the fact that we were number 3 in the world in terms of foreign investment in the first half of last year, that didn't happen by accident. It wouldn't have happened under just any government. It was deliberate choices we made as a government to work with you, to invest in high-end manufacturing, to invest in our auto sector, to invest in environmental responsibility and clean energy, to partner with Indigenous people so you can get big projects built. They were deliberate choices that are all things that Conservatives are now continuing to campaign against. And that's part of the choice Canadians are going to be able to take in the next election. Do you think a stronger future is built on cuts to programs or in investments in things like dental care, pharmacare, Canada Child Benefit, $10 a day child care? These are the building blocks of strong communities and therefore a strong economy. You can't have a plan for the future of the economy if you don't have a plan for protecting the environment. You can't have a plan for the future of the economy if you don't have a plan to stand up for workers' rights. You can't have a plan for the future of the economy if you are not making sure that everyone gets to participate in the economy with better health care, with better child care, with more access to the things that are reducing barriers so everyone can succeed. And that's the kind of choice Canadians are faced. And this time of anger, of frustration, which is real. Grocery prices are way up, gas is expensive, rents are overwhelming. And as a government, we're putting forward solutions around housing, around childcare, around grocery competition. We're going to continue to roll up our sleeves and look for those real solutions with you. But it's easy, so easy to throw up your hands and say, yeah, it's tough right now. It's because everything is broken. Canada's not broken. Canadians are not broken. We're going to do what we have always done. When times get tough, we roll up our sleeves, we work hard, and we look out for each other. That's what we did during the pandemic. That's what we did in challenging times around NAFTA. And that's what we're going to do now as inflation comes down, as interest rates will start coming down hopefully soon, as more housing gets built right across the country, as more investment comes in because more and more countries around the world want to be part of the success and the stability that Canada is offering. Yes, things are challenging right now. But the choice we're all facing is, okay, do we give in to despair and division and toxic partisan attacks? Or do we say, no, you know what? Fighting climate change and putting more money in people's pockets matters. Standing up for reconciliation and an economy that works for everyone matters. Investing in the kinds of solutions that are going to give massive returns to communities and to our country's economy matters. And that's why I'm so pleased to be here today with all of you. Parce que c'est pas automatique. Les défis auxquels on est en train de faire face vont exiger qu'on soit là pour les gens, les uns pour les autres. Et les syndicats ont toujours été au cœur de la réussite du Canada. Unions have always been at the heart of how we built this country.
Right on.
And they will continue to be. But you know how hard you've had to fight for it over decades and generations. You know how much you've had to push on this. For the past 8 years, you have had a government that has been on your side, that understands that the fight that you have is not just for yourselves, but it's for Canada. And that's why I'm so glad to be here today to say thank you to all of you for everything you've done in this fight, and to charge you up for the continued fights, not just over the coming years, but over the coming decades, as every day we position ourselves to make Canada a better place for all of us here now and for future generations. Merci beaucoup, mes chers amis.
I can't come to this local in this union community without saying something. The facts of the matter is this. Come here, young man. Come here. Come here. I just want to say to the Prime Minister of Canada, when I walked in here today, this young man said to me, I want to be the future Prime Minister of Canada. So I want to introduce you to the future Vice President. This is the Prime Minister of Canada. Tell him you want his job.
I want your job.
Okay, shake his hand. By the way, there's no difference in this than Pierre Elliott Trudeau walking around with his children thinking someday that his children could be the Prime Minister of Canada. And as a parent, you'd be incredibly proud if your son became the Prime Minister of Canada. So I congratulate you for carrying your father's footsteps. But I wanted to say this. You used back-to-work legislation, which is a mistake, in your speech, because what he was talking about is legislation that will stop scabs from going into federal employers in this country. And the facts of the matter is, why am I fired up? Dave knows this. Young Dag Nolan knows this. I am fired up because I woke up this morning to a call in a community called Port. You would know these folks because you're the Canadian Prime Minister. Otto Port in East Passage, Halifax. This is a company that's a subsidiary of CN Canada, one of the largest multinational corporations in Canada. Once was a Crown corporation until the Tory government got rid of Crown corporations. And guess what's happening today? Scabs are going into the workplace to the largest employer in this country. And all I want to say to you, Mr. Trudeau, is that the legislation is in the House. We would ask you to expedite that legislation. We would ask you to contact CN when you leave here and tell them that the intent of the government is there will be no scabs working in a federal jurisdiction in Canada starting today. Not just. And to the union members in here, I know I'm going to steal Dave and Daggy's speech, but we are on call like we always are. And if there's a fight in Halifax, we will get on those buses and get in our cars and go on those planes, and we will defend Unifor members in Halifax, and we will defend unions in our country. So I ask you again to raise that and keep going.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for correction. Thank you for everything you do. Ken Lewis, everyone. Allow me to do that line again, and we'll get the applause off of it. And that's why this government is bringing in replacement worker legislation. Anti-scab legislation is going to allow you to have all the strength you need at the bargaining table to move forward. That's what we're doing. We need your support. There we go. Thank you. Let's fix that.
Well, so listen, next time, you see the size of the freaking guy, he made 3 moves at you already. Like, listen, I'm outnumbered here. They asked me who the guy in the blue shirt was. They were coming after you. But anyways. Listen, he ain't that tough, trust me. Anyways, thanks, Ken. I did miss a couple people that I want to mention. And you mentioned UTIP. And we have somebody here that is directly involved with UTIP. And Noor and her community, she does the Build a Dream for underrepresented groups, from women, and she promotes skilled trades. And thank you, Noor, for being here. And my little buddy there, who owns our pro basketball team in Windsor, Dardis, everybody loves Dardis. Dardis is everywhere in the community. You ask for Dardis and he's always there. And I wanted to recognize you, I didn't want to miss you. But the big thing that he said, the Prime Minister said, is they are investing in people. He said it. That Conservative, if he was the Prime Minister today, we would not have that investment over there off EC Row Expressway. We would not have any of these investments that are going on with EVs because he calls it corporate welfare. And the government of today calls it a return on investment. And that's what these investments are all about. Good paying jobs, good unionized paying jobs. We're going to have another 2,500 jobs over there, plus the spin-off jobs when we get this thing up and running. And I want to tell you, Prime Minister, I want to thank you from all of our leadership here, the leadership at Local 200, John, his leadership, and my leadership, all of our reps. We want to thank you for making the trip here today. Unfortunately, we have some of them assholes out there, but that happens. But you know what? I'm so happy you made it here today, took the time out of your schedule, talked to our membership, talked to our community partners. That's what this is all about. Thank you so much for being here.